Happy Friday. It is Feedback Friday, and we are here to give you feedback on your paintings. And if you didn't submit one, that's okay, because you're going to learn by hearing the feedback about other people. I'll also teach you a new composition style today called the 3-spot. All right, so you want to make sure you hang out for that. And we're going to review 6 different paintings, I believe. And let's look at those 6 paintings right now, just to get a feel for them. We're going to review black and white and color. It looks like we have an Irish painting here, a still life, a landscape painting, a drawing, and a garden painting. I think that's what we have. Oh, and a floral. Terrific. Okay, so that's what we're going to do today. So you look at those and you go, what's wrong with them? Maybe there's nothing wrong with them. And so then the question is, how can I improve them? What can I do to make them better, to make the painting stand out? You know, I have a rule in my life, and the rule is no drama. But there is an exception, and that is you want drama in your paintings. You want them to stand out. So we talk about composition, we talk about color, we talk about edges, we talk about a brushwork, a lot of different things. And so that's part of what we're going to do today. This is Feedback Friday on Art School Live. We're here every weekday at 12 noon Eastern Time with free art lessons in the middle of the week, art marketing guidance on Mondays, art marketing Mondays, right? And Feedback Fridays. So let's do this now.
It's Art School Live with Eric Rhodes.
Okay, so as publisher of multiple art magazines, newsletters, events, conventions, hundreds of art instruction videos, working with the world's best artists, and a couple of decades of painting, I have developed a feel for what I can help you with. All right. I oftentimes at my events, my publishers' invitational retreats in the Adirondacks and Fall Color Week, I oftentimes will give some feedback to people, even though the purpose of being there isn't to learn. The purpose, it's to learn, but it's to learn on your own. But I do like to do that, and I help whenever I can. By the way, speaking of that, it turns out we still have a few seats left to Fall Color Week in California this fall, because Fall Color Week ended up, there was another event going on there, and 10 rooms canceled. So we were able to get some of them. I don't know how many we have left, but you might want to check that out. Okay, we have some brave souls who've submitted their paintings. I have rules. Rules are, try to always be kind when you're critiquing paintings, because you don't know if you're going to rock somebody's world and ruin their day. We don't want to do that. We want to be constructive. We want to try and find something positive. We don't want to tear into people and destroy them. Everybody's at a different stage, and it's real easy to go, oh, wow, you know, that's a really bad painting, you know, but what if it's somebody who's just starting out and you would just rock their world and destroy them? We don't want to do that. Now, I could not paint. I didn't have any natural talent. I couldn't even draw a stick figure. And today my work is in some art galleries, multiple art galleries. And we believe anybody can learn to paint. And one of the ways to learn to paint is to watch a critique, and you will learn more. Because when your painting is being critiqued, you're going, la, 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 I can't understand. You know, it's because you don't like to hear criticism. I get it. I'm the same way. But when you're watching other people's being critiqued, you don't have any skin in the game, but you're going to see things. And the thing that's funny for me is the more I critique, the more I find these problems in my own paintings. Okay. So anyway, this is all opinion. There's nothing personal here, and we're going to do it. So we're going to get right into Feedback Friday, and we've already shown you the paintings we're going to do. So we're going to start with black and whites. And what I like to do is evaluate what are called values. Now, for those who don't know what a value is, let me just show you. A value is light to dark, right? You've got light and it's getting darker. So there's 9 different values. And those values are really important in making a painting look right. And so what we want to do is evaluate the values in our painting and see if there is something that's reading right. Because what tends to happen is we tend to put darks where they maybe shouldn't. So let's look at this from the standpoint of values before we do anything else. So when I ask myself a question about values, I ask myself, where is the darkest dark in the painting? And usually, now look at my face, look at my eyes right now. Usually it's about squinting. So you squint, so everything goes fuzzy. And when I squint and I look at this painting and I say, where is the darkest dark? I see three areas that are the darkest dark. And I see this doorway here. I see this wall here, which is not as dark as this dark in here. And I see a dark spot here and a dark spot here, and maybe even a dark spot on that roof. So I've got to figure out how do we correct these values. And so I like to say that one of the things that really helps things out is to have a nice dark value in the front. So this would be a natural painting to make this a little bit darker in here, maybe a little darker in that window. And that what that does is it helps everything else recede because the other darks are not so dark. The other thing I would probably do is I'd make this dark in this doorway just a little less dark, and then I would look for a way to take this dark in the background and make that less dark because it's not adding much of anything and it's distracting. And then you might even look for a dark, for this roof line that's not quite as dark. That one's probably a little too dark. So let's see if we can do that. So just if you look at those little things, those subtle little things, they can make a little bit of a difference. So let's now look at composition. So first off, I'm going to make my changes, take my changes away from here. And now we're going to look at composition. So I'll pull out the red pen and I ask myself always, are we going dead center? Because dead center typically, not always, but typically is kind of boring. And guess what? The focal point, which is the end of the street, is dead center. We also have a roof line, which is pretty much along this horizontal axis. And so what I would probably look to do is move this roof line up so it's not along the horizontal. And that way it's not going dead center. And I would look to figure out how to move this focal point off of dead center a little bit. And so that would mean moving these buildings over, etc. Okay, now we're in the color version, and color helps a lot because it helps to give you a sense of what's going on, and things sometimes don't look as dark as you think they are. Okay, I'm not going to talk about composition now, but I'm going to talk about light. Now, the thing about wherever this is, Scotland or Ireland, it's very charming, and it has, if you look at that sky, it's a very gray sky up here, right? It's very gray and very moody. And then I ask myself, but there's light coming in here and across the road and a little bit in here. Is there any tinge of that light showing? So what I would probably look for an opportunity to do is to see if I could find a way to get a sense of there's some light happening somewhere in that sky, even if it's just over here a little bit, a little warm spot somewhere, so that it creates the sense of not everything is dark and gloomy. So it's like there's some yellow light happening over here, and you could look for a way to kind of blend that in and make it look right. And then it just kind of, or it could be a cloud catching some light, but something that gives an indication of some of that light. And I think that can help out a little bit. Then what I like to do is I like to pump up the light. Now, the question is, where's my focal point? We did not do a focal point exercise, so I'm going to do that right now. So we looked at the dead center. We have that, which could be potentially a problem. This is a lovely painting, by the way, Barbara. But if we look at the tic-tac-toe board where we equally divide things into thirds, what I'm really looking for is I'm looking for a focal point in one of these 4 areas and a primary focal point in one, a secondary focal point in another, but you don't want to use all 4. So if we were going to be doing this where the primary focal point was this water and this beach or this marina or whatever is in there, then we're going to move that over. So I would probably crop this painting at about here. And then if I were to do this same exercise, where this is in thirds, now this is still not in the right place. This is still in the center, but it's not quite dead center. And that might be okay. And it may not have to be a primary focal point, but maybe this is a primary focal point. So let's just assume that we've moved it all over. I'll tell you what, let's just do this one more time. Let's move this water. Well, this is difficult. I don't know. I'm not going to mess with that right now. So let's leave the water and let's make a focal point. This is our focal point, right? Because that's in light and that's capturing the most light. This can be a secondary focal point because it's going to grab a lot of light. So let's just play the game of I like to make my light yellow-ish so it reads like light, right? So white is a very cool color, but what happens when I take that and I make that yellow, light yellow like there, it suddenly feels like it's catching light, right? It doesn't feel quite so gray. And now that light is doing it. And then I would look for an opportunity to figure out how I'm going to get a little light on this area back here. I'm going to make my pen a little thinner. So I'm going to get some light on here, and I'm going to get some light on these objects down here, maybe some light over in here, and some light on this boat. So now this reads like it's in light. And then I want to take that light that's coming across from over there, and I'm going to just kind of pump it up. And what that's doing is it's kind of creating an arrow to my focal point. And then, you can indicate your windows in there, and your windows can be in light too. They don't have to be quite as dark because they can sense like they're in light. And then you want to look for all the things where that light's likely to hit. So you've got your roof line up here, and you've got it up here, and you've got maybe a little of that light's hitting over here, but you don't want it necessarily to be as strong because there's some light coming through here and through here. And so maybe what we're going to do is find a pavement color. We can find a pavement color that would read like light. And so now we've got some light coming across here, and maybe we add a little light to the side of this building, which is, catching some of that light as well. And you just kind of have to play with the light and see what happens. Now, if you put too many light spots in too many different places, it might draw the eye too many different places. So you might, if that were the case, I don't want to do that. So what I might do is just put a little spot of light coming across here, right, like that. And then everything else, I'm going to just kind of going to darken it up so that it feels like that just spot of light's coming across there. And that's going to give it a little bit more strength. And then we can have a little spot of light hitting the side of the building over here. Some of those red bricks, but it's not going to be too much. And then we can put a little of that light on that window and maybe over the doorway or something. So maybe that light continues in there and it takes you up. So I would pump up the light, and then I would look, can I get some of that light on that distant mountain? The distant mountain to me looks gray. If you want it to feel like it's distant, then make it blue or purple. And of course, if it's too far away, if it's too close, it might be green. But you could do something like that, and then you can take little pink spots and put little spots of pink on it. That makes it read like light, right? Now, again, I'm drawing with an iPad, and so you can go in and soften things up, soften up edges and stuff, and you've got the sense of light. So the only other things that I would say on this is you want to put detail and you want to put focal point. So when you've got a strong, let's say you've got a strong light, you can have a nice strong dark right there next to it. And that's the exception, but you want to have your darker dark still far forward if you can here, so that it's going to make that a little darker. And I wouldn't, you've got this window in here. I would just kind of soften that back just a little bit. I wouldn't make it quite so bright because you don't want to draw too much attention to that window or to these steps, because you're really trying to draw the attention down here. And so look for an opportunity. Now you have this building here is in a lot of light too, and it's catching that light and it reads like light. So you have that option of, again, pumping that up a little bit. And so you might pump up some of this light and make that in light. And that makes it feel pretty strong, pretty powerful. I'd probably make it even a little lighter, right? So it really feels like it's hitting light. And then of course you can put the marks of the bricks in there, and then you want some of that light in that roof to catch some of that light in there too. And that really makes it, I like that. I think it makes it a powerful painting. And then everything else kind of is in, that's the bell, that means that's the Grim Reaper. Everything else is going to be a little bit darker and not so important. The road isn't so important. Also watch for all your little marks, because little marks draw the eye. So see how that strengthened that right away. And if you wanted to, you could take a little bit of red or a little bit of yellow or something just across the top of that, and maybe a little bit on there, on that roof line. And of course, these things tend to be a little oranger at the top of the roof. So maybe a little bit there, and maybe catching some light in there. Okay, Barbara, nice job. Let's send it in once you've changed it. Okay, the next one is, this is really beautiful. This is 𝗙𝗲𝗃𝗱𝗆, and 𝗙𝗲𝗃 is a really good painter. I can tell you that already. So we're going to go through the process. We're going to ask ourselves about the composition. So the first thing we're going to do is go dead center. Well, you got nothing going on here, and that's good. Now let's do the tic-tac-toe board composition. You got, this is kind of your highlight, and this rabbit here is kind of a secondary highlight, but it's not in a composition spot. So you might consider moving that rabbit down to here, or move it up to here. And so let's take a look at this painting from a values standpoint and see what we've got. I think the values are very strong. What 𝗙𝗃𝗃𝗱 has done here very effectively is she has laid in all this light in this corner that says there's light coming in, and then that kind of sets the tone. And then she's got really nice darks in her background and over here, and a little bit of dark over here, which is nice. There's an object here, I can't tell what it is, but I think, you know, overall it's really well done. Now, I like this painting a lot. I'm going to look at the color version. Now, the color version, the first reaction I had to this painting is, wow, I love the energy. I love the colors. I love the looseness. It feels really great. And so 𝗙𝗃𝗃𝗱 did a really terrific job on this. Her execution on these things is pretty interesting, but there's a couple of things that are bugging me, and I don't know exactly what to do about it. But let's talk about those things. First off, where is the light coming from? Well, according to all of this, the light is coming from this direction, right? And so she's got a nice feel of the direction is coming from the light. The light is coming from this direction over here. But where's this light coming from? Now, that would typically be reflected light, unless there's another light source coming in from over there, but that's confusing me. So what I might consider doing, first off, compositionally, I think we're okay. What I might consider doing, this rabbit is also getting its light from this direction. So I think that's where the light's coming from. So what I would probably do is look for a version of what the reflected light might be, and maybe mute that back just a little bit. So it gives the sense of depth, but it's not putting so much emphasis on that. It's just giving a sense of there's a little bit of reflected light. It's picking up some light from somewhere. Now, the other thing that's interesting here is there's a lot of foliage or a lot of flowers in here, and there's all these just spots of flowers, and this is the way you laid it out. But my eye is like, I don't know where to go. I don't know where to go. I don't know where to go. And so I think what we want to do is be a little bit more deliberate for the eye. So I like where this is. I think I would move the rabbit down here, and then I would lay some of these flowers a little bit more into the focal points around these things and around in here. And I wouldn't put all that stuff up here. I think that one's okay there. And I don't know that I would even put all this stuff here. It's a basket. Maybe move the basket over to the edge over here so that the basket is kind of part of your composition, but it's kind of out there as a lone wolf right now. And then you've got all these leaves and all these petals and things, and it creates a lot of energy, and it's very well executed. But what if you group that stuff? And I think if you group it, it would make a big difference. Now, this is such a complex painting. I don't know that I can do much with it in here, but let me just show you a couple of things that I'm noticing. If you take this background color here, and I just completely obliterate that thing back there, all of a sudden it's not drawing my eye. And this thing here is drawing my eye, so I'm just going to take that background color here. Already it's stronger. Just by doing that, the painting is stronger. And you know, you've got good use of darks. You've got a good dark up here, and you've got some good darks in here. I would maybe try to get a little bit more dark on this vase in a couple of spots. You've got a nice dark in the middle. And then what I would probably do is look for a way that you could move this grouping of flowers or this rabbit. And so I'm not going to be able to draw a rabbit very effectively, but I'm going to move the rabbit probably into here. That's my rabbit. And so that it's in one of the 4 focal points, right? You got this one up here and here. And so the rabbit then is going to, I would make it draw less light because it's drawing so much light right now. So I would make it draw less light. Now I'm going to give you an example. I'm just going to go in here and I'm going to mute the rabbit back just a little bit. So he's there, but he's not drawing quite so much attention. The light is a little bit muted, and I've made it a little blue here. So that way he is not grabbing all that light. And all this stuff grabbing light, you want to look for a way that you can just make it not grab so much light, because you want all your light to be really over here. And so I would look for ways to get these flowers and get some flowers, you know, grouped around here. This flower is nice. I'd like to see a little bit more color in these flowers because it's an opportunity, especially a purple, because let's see if I can find a purple. A purple in here, you get a purple against these yellows, and it's a complementary color, right? So purple against yellow, that would make for some really nice flowers, and it just makes it feel like it's in a little bit more harmony. So I'd probably make these purple instead of blue, and then you know, you're carrying the theme, but you've got a lot of nice energy going on here. Okay, I'm done with 𝗙𝗲𝗯. 𝗙𝗲𝗯, that's a good painting on its own, so congrats. Next, we're going to go to Deborah Stone in Minnesota. Deborah, nice job here. I'm going to compliment you. I noticed something already, and that is you have a high horizon. I like that because the tendency for most of us is to put our horizon right there in the middle, and I like having a high horizon. So that's really good. If you look at this from a dead center standpoint, nothing really going on here. You got the stream going through here, but that's nice. You could potentially move your stream over a little bit more so it's not in the center, but that's not an egregious error. So I'm trying to figure out where the focal point is. The other thing I want to talk about is values, but I think the goal is to draw the eye in here and make something in here your focal point. So if this were your tic-tac-toe board, you know, something in here would be good. And, you know, kind of starting your river in here at this focal point would be good. Maybe move this tree over so this tree becomes a third, but you don't really need it. I mean, you want to have a primary focal point. Now, Deborah, congrats, Deb, has made a pretty nice dark up in here. I would look for an opportunity to get a little bit more dark in here. And then you want to bring your darks just a little bit less into here, but get some good darks in here. And that way, when we go back, it's going to get lighter and lighter. And these seem like they're too dark to me. But we're going to go back to try to figure out the focal point, and we're going to do it in the color version. All right. So this is really pretty, Deborah. I think you've done a nice job on it, and color, you know, really helps it. But I'm looking at this and I'm saying, okay, this is probably a focal point because of the sunset. And so if that's focal point, you've got to take me from here over to here. And so how are you going to do that? Well, what I would do first off is I'd look for a way that I can darken some of this water. So darken this over here, and so that when my eye comes through here, these colors, these reflected colors from the sky, see if I can capture these colors are going to draw me in here. And so now what's happening is you're drawing me away from that, and you can even put some reflection of this mountain in this water to darken it a little bit, right? And then, you know, when the wind hits it, it becomes brighter and lighter. And so you can go in here and you can do what, you know, what 𝗙𝗲𝗃𝗀𝗆 does, which he's the master of it. Nobody does it like him, but he puts the sparkle in the water, and that sparkle's got a little bit of, you know, a nice bright spot, maybe a pure white spot in the middle of it, and then he surrounds it with just a little bit of lighter yellows, and so you kind of get the sense, that's probably too bright, but you get the sense that, you know, that's drawing the eye. Now that, you know, that's going to help it. And then I'd get a little bit more light up into the sky, again, for the same reason, is you want to have kind of a focal point. Now this white up here in the sky isn't helping, so I would probably mute this back just a little bit, because you want to have all of your attention going to that sunset. And so this is a great opportunity to give this some color, assuming I get the right color in here. So give some color. That's probably too bright or too chroma-ish, but get some color in here. I love sunsets because I can put pinks in. I like pinks. I like colors in general. And this is a great opportunity to that's too bright, to put a little of that in here. So look for ways to do that. And then on these mountains, you could probably blue these mountains up just a little bit. And they do look distant, which is good, but you can blue those mountains up a little bit, and then you can throw some light on those mountains, kind of like what we did before, which is, you know, throw some pink light on them, or something that's probably a little bright, but something that's going to make it read like. So what you're doing is you're drawing the eye in here and all the way over there. So with that in mind, what I would also do is I'd probably look to mute all of this stuff in the front, because you have all this water in the front, and you know it's water. So you maybe put a little bit more reflection in here, and maybe even a little bit of reflection in here, so that your eye is going right into here. And you could also ask yourself, can I put some bright spots anywhere else? You know, could I put a, you know, a bright spot on here? Could I put a bright spot on here, so that, you know, kind of dancing the eye around? This tree here isn't lending anything to this, and so I would just take it out. I'd remove it, or else if you're going to do it, you're going to need to make it stronger. So if you're going to make it stronger, then, you know, get a nice interesting tree in there, and do something that's going to make it fun. Get that backlit foliage in there, and you know, maybe look for that as part of your focal point area. Anyway, that's about all I can tell you on that one, but nice job on that. Next, we're going to this drawing. Now, the black and white version and the color version are essentially the same, because it's a drawing. You know, it's kind of hard to apply traditional composition to this, but you can apply composition in drawing. So let's ask ourselves this: anything dead center? Well, you've got this shoulder action going kind of dead center on the horizontal line. You could say that shoulder's almost there, but that's getting picky, and I don't think that's a problem. I look at this and I say, okay, where is the light? And I'm going to guess the light's coming from here. And what's happening though is I've got light coming in here, I've got light coming in here, I've got light coming in here, I have light here to the head, light to the neck, light to the shoulder, I've got light on the backs of the arms, I've got light in here, and light, you know. So I think what's happening here is the eye is confused. And I think probably, Janet, nice job on this, by the way, I think probably what we need to do is to figure out how to get a little bit more form in here. So, you know, we do have darks on the backs of necks, and we have darks in heads, and probably look for a way to get a little bit more dark on this side of your person, your kid. And maybe, you can even pump those darks up. And remember that even the flesh area is going to get a little darker, because you want to create the sense of form. And maybe it's something like this, and then you've got a middle value in there, like maybe like this, and then you've got the light. So it feels like the light's coming from one direction. You could do that here and do that here. Really, that hand's not catching a lot of light, so you can kind of pump some darks in there. And then as far as this kid over here, let's figure out how we can darken his hat a little bit, right? And we can darken this side of his face, right? So he's catching light from over the side. Darken his shoulder and part of his thing here. And then even white pants, they're going to go a little darker, because all of this has drawn a lot of attention. And really, do you want to draw that much attention to the kid's bottom? And I would say no. They're going to know it's a bottom no matter what. So if you look for a way to get that a little darker and put a little bit of light on those edges, it's going to read a little better. And then you do the same thing on this arm over here, is get some value on that arm. And then you're pumping up the light on the light spots, and you could potentially pump them up even a lot more, get some really good lights on those hats and on those shoulders. Shoulders catch a lot of light, and that's a really good way to draw attention. Now, the other thing the first reaction I had is, okay, this is two boys walking down the street, and they're just coming from a game, and there's a story. I don't know what the story is, but the story might be they just won the game, or they just lost the game or something. But I think I would consider looking for a way to just put a little something in here, and maybe they're on a road, maybe there's a house or two here, or something, some infrastructure, maybe it's a mountain, just to give it a sense of some sense of place. So, they could be on this road. Just, you don't need much. Put a couple clouds in the sky, that kind of a thing. And it might give it just a little bit more story, but it's certainly not critical. So you go to the black and white version of this, or the brown sepia version of this, all the things I talked about really apply. Composition's good, overall it's good, but just give this some really good darks. And if you get these darks in here a little bit more, it's just going to make a huge difference in the overall sense of things, because you want things to feel like there's at least three values in everything: a dark, a medium, and a light. And so keep that in mind. And if you get those three values in, what a difference it's going to make. All right, let's go on. Good job, Janet. Congrats on that. Now we have, we've got two more to go. We have Sharon Abshagen. And this is a lovely garden shot, somebody's backyard or alley or something. I like it a lot. I think I like, let me talk about the first thing I like. I like the sense of light in this angular line. But I wonder where the eye is going. So let's go for composition test before we go into values. So dead center. Okay, here we go. The middle of those buildings and that window, pretty much dead center. And let's go for our tic-tac-toe board and see what happens there. All right, we've got a composition. Anything here? Nope. Got a little something going on here. Got a roof line here. But, and you got a big bright over here. Remember that light draws the eye. Light draws the eye. So you've got a big light coming in here. It's leading my eye here, but you've got a big light over here. So what I would do is I would consider muting this back and enhancing this in here, and maybe mute some of this stuff back a little bit, so that you're really pumping up the light in this particular area. And maybe even back here. I don't know what this is up here. It's a telephone pole or something. I think there's some wires. I would pronounce that a little bit more. Now, in terms of values, let's look at it from the standpoint of values. Remember, dark values come forward typically, and light values go towards the back. You have a dark here, you have a dark here, dark in this tree, etc. And I think if you just, again, you've got a dark window, you know, get some good darks in here. You've got a nice opportunity for a shadow. You've got this house. Why not take that shadow all the way across and really create a big dark? And then you can lighten that shadow. Inside that shadow, you can have a lighter shadow so that you still get the pronunciation of the road. And now what's happening is it's helping. Now I would also consider darken all of this because it's not adding much to it. And I would darken this. And so what we're doing is we're drawing the eye over here. So we're going to now go in and we're going to say, okay, what can we do? We're going to pump up the light in here and here and around here. And that's going to be what our primary focal point is going to be. So you could really pump it up and make it read like light. Okay, now let's go to the color version and see how we feel about it in color, if I can find it. Okay, so we have color, again, makes a difference. Now, there's some flowers in here I didn't see before, and we have the shadow of the house in here. And the shadow is very gray. And if you really study shadows, it takes a while to get it. The shadows are really more blue, more purpley. And it kind of depends on, on the light. So warm shadows, warm light makes cool shadows, cool light makes warm shadows, but that's not always the case. So maybe you just can consider making this a little bluer. So it's not so, it looks like you use black, and black is a potentially dangerous color if you don't know how to use it properly. And again, this shadow shape is a little awkward, but I would consider just get a shadow in the foreground, make that shadow, you realize it's a shadow from that house. And of course, the edges of shadows, you want to soften those edges, right? Now, sometimes they're harder depending on how close they are to things, but you soften that. And now that's kind of taking my eye into the focal point. And then you can really look towards, that barn back there is this color green. And that's, I would probably look to see if I could pump that up just a little bit more and look for ways to just make that stand out a little bit more. And then this part in here needs to, even though it's catching some light, I would darken it up just a little bit, because what we're doing here is we're trying to create contrast. And so this is the side of the building. And so you want to create some contrast in there. And you can also, because it's in shadow, it's in shade, you can make that with a blue or a brown blue or something to see how that pumps it up, and then look for a chance to really find a way that you can, really bring some attention to part of that barn, get that to read color. And you got some bright lights in here and these plants. These oranges that are over here need to be moved over here, right? And then what I would do is I'd look for an opportunity to mute these back, because what's important is what's over here. And then I would also look for an opportunity to mute this side of this roof back, or this side of this house back, because we really want to bring all the attention in there. Now, I like red when I can, and sometimes I'll put it in even if I don't see it, because it can make, especially for barns, it can make some really nice, interesting color. And it's an excuse to use some red, and you got nice red in there and some oranges. And then I would look at this grass, and here I probably look for some opportunity to kind of mute some of this back just a little bit more, because you want the brightest spots to be up in here. And so this just, again, it's a preference thing. And, you could make that part of your shadow if you wanted to, and you can put some detail in your shadow so that it's got a sense of things in it. And then I would also kind of go back into this, whoops, and I would say, all right, what do I want to do? I want to mute this back. You could put some color in it if you wanted to, and I would probably even consider muting this back, because I want this to grab my attention, grab the light. And of course, if you can put that in a little bit of, get a little color in that light, that's a win. And so, you might put a little tiny bit of yellow in there, and it just makes it, and then get a little yellow on your fence, and you could even enhance the path a little bit more. Now, if you can still get rid of that shadow and pull the eye in if you want to, but all of this other stuff, if it's muted back, it's going to benefit you, because it's not going to be drawing quite so much attention. And then now your darks in the back don't look quite as dark. Now, I would also look for an opportunity, though, to get a little bit of light on the tree near the focal point. I wouldn't try to put it everywhere. You want to have that sense that the light is hitting all of this back here, but you want to keep it kind of near your focal point, and then you can kind of mute some of this back. All right, Sharon, good job. Next and last, before we do the 3-spot composition, hello, we have this floral. This is very nice. It's very well executed. And Ryan Henry in Texas, congratulations on that. Let's start with composition. Let's ask ourselves, and I want you guys to ask yourself these questions, because if you learn to ask them, that's going to help you. And this is kind of not dead center. It's off center, and that's pretty good. So that's a win. Now let's look at the composition in general. And there's nothing, there's a flower there. There's nothing here, nothing here. So I would consider taking this flower and moving it over here, right? And maybe some of the others. Now I'm going to look at what I consider to be busyness. What I would probably do is I would try to make these flowers in here a little bit bigger, and these leaves in here, and then I would mute back all of this stuff back in here, because I want this to be the star of the show, right, Ryan? And so what's happening, though, is we got a bright spot here, bright spot here, bright spot here, bright spot here, bright spots everywhere that are drawing my eye, and this is where I want to draw the eye. So if you mute all that stuff back, it's going to make a huge difference. And so let's go to the color and see if color makes a difference. This is really lovely, Ryan, by the way. Congratulations on this. So let's ask ourselves, can we mute this back? And I'm not going to worry about composition here, but I'm just going to put in some of this color, and I'm going to get rid of that sky entirely. And I'm going to get rid of all those little spots. And maybe you want to have some little spots of color going on. But look what happens when I get rid of all these white spots, all these sky spots. All of a sudden, this composition is standing out. Even these little blue spots, I don't know what they are, if they're water or what they are. And it's all just standing out. Get rid of this white in the front. And now this composition is really standing out. It's like this is the star of the show. Now you can take some little color spots and some things in here that will give it the indication that there's some leaves and stuff, and that will help it a lot. But now this is really popping. Now the question is, where do you want the eye to go? And your eye probably wants to go to this primary flower. And so make sure you've got really good, nice brights on a spot of this flower. These flowers to me look like they're fully in light, and I would just look for an opportunity to create some shadow shapes to make sure that these shadows are in there, so that you can so the white really pops. And you can even this flower here doesn't need to be in full light, because you want this flower here to really pop out. And so all these other flowers could be secondary, and you might want them in there, and you might want to have some sense of brightness, but maybe not quite as bright. You can use blues, and you also want to get potentially a little color in here, because there's some color in here, there's some color in here, but you want to make sure that you're not taking the eye away from the focal point. And that to me is the focal point. So all this other stuff to me just kind of gets muted back. And because I've got one or two flowers that I want to have be my star. And that will give, take all that energy that you did. I like these leaves, but maybe soften them up a little bit. That blue, I don't know what it is. It's water or something, but it's just drawing the eye. So I would just kind of look for ways to get rid of that, right? And now you've got a really beautiful rendering here of a flower. You can pump up the light on a couple of these leaves, and it's just gonna read a little better. So maybe you've got a couple spots here and there that are brighter, but this is your star. If you want to put a little sky hole in there, you might do it, but I would. I'm not sure it's going to lend anything to you because it's going to draw the eye. See how that draws the eye? So I'd probably get rid of that. Okay, anyway, that's what I've got in terms of stuff. So congrats, everybody. Now we're going to go to what is called the 3-spot composition. And a 3-spot composition is essentially just taking a composition and saying, okay, let's say here's my horizon. And let's say I've got something big here, and I got something here, and then I got something over here. So what might that be? Well, this could be, a bush, and this could be a rock, and this could be a flying saucer, or it could be the sun. Or remember how we used to do that when we were kids? Hey, that's the sun. But the idea is kind of create this sense of balance: big, smaller, smaller. So that could be it could be something like a mass. So I could do let's say I've got the eye going in here, and then I've got something back here, and then I've got a horizon line, and I've got a big mass of trees in here, and then maybe I've got a little tree in here, and then I've got a couple of bushes in here. So you're leading my eye to the 3. There's a lot of different approaches you could do that. So maybe you could say, I've got a little sailboat here on the water, and there's another sailboat here, and there's a boat parked here getting ready to go in the water, and so you look for a way to do that. But you want to try to keep them off center, right? You don't want them to be there. You want them to be kind of in this directing the eye kind of sequence. Okay, that's what we've got for today. If you want to submit your paintings, just go to streamlinepublishing.com/feedback-Friday. Okay, and that's a way to do that. And if you're brave, we can do it. Now, before we go, I'm going to tell you about a couple of things we're doing soon. We're doing some online art conferences. They're 3 to 4 days. I say 3 to 4 because they're 3 days, but there's a 4th really before the event, early essentials day of intense training, so that you can immerse yourself into something. Like if you just immerse yourself for 3 or 4 days, rather than messing around for years and years and not making any progress, if you immerse yourself for 3 or 4 days, take that time aside for yourself, take some time off, or just make sure you take that time. You will see a massive increase because you're watching 30 plus top instructors teaching you the best of the best. You're seeing how they approach different things. You're getting repetition. You're painting along in some cases. You're trying it. Then you can go to the replays. The next one is Pastel Live, which is coming up in September. And I love pastel. I love gouache. I love watercolor. I love oil. I love everything. But pastel is a really great medium to start out with because you don't have to mix color. You don't have to learn anything other than, like you did when you were coloring. And it's a really great place to start. You can see the world's best pastel artists. We then have Realism Live coming up in November, which is about things that are realistic. Realism is realistic, right? If it's abstract modern, it's not realistic. Nothing wrong with that. So you will learn how to do portraits and figures and landscapes and still life, a little bit of everything, and a lot of different styles, from loose impressionistic to tight and very, very well rendered. And that's coming up in November. And then, of course, we have Watercolor Live in January, and that's pretty cool. Top experts teaching you the same kind of things in watercolor. And then, of course, we have other things coming up as well, like we have Acrylic Live coming up. If you're an artist or a wannabe, let me tell you this: you can do this. You can learn. If you watch 5 of our videos where we're teaching art, 5 of them, just 5 of them, which is not going to take you a lot of time, those 5 will give you the confidence to go, you know what, I can do this. And then watch more, and you can learn completely how to paint, draw on this program. You can go into YouTube to Art School Live and hit hundreds that we've done since COVID began. And if you subscribe and hit the little notification bell, then you're going to know when we're going live, and that will help you as well. And you can join us live and be part of the community. So anyway, we have a free video for you. It's called 97 Incredible Art Secrets. It's free. We will send you instantly a link so you can stream it. And it's a couple hours with our best tips from some of our best artists. And if you want the DVD version, all you got to do is pay the shipping, which is cheap. Anyway, you're going to love this, and it's worthwhile. And just go to 97artsecrets.com/free, online or DVD. Okay. All right. I hope you enjoyed Feedback Friday. I've got friends in town. I'm going to take the rest of the day off, and we're going to go painting. That sounds like a plan. I hope you enjoy Art School Live. Anybody can do this. You can learn this. If I can, you can. We're here weekdays at 12 noon Eastern. All right. And we have demos from artists all over the world. We have marketing advice on Mondays, Marketing Mondays, Art Marketing Mondays, and we have feedback on Fridays. And I hope this is good for you. Now, what I want you to do, here's your assignment. Are you ready? I want you to go look up some paintings, some classical paintings, some great paintings from some of the great masters, and ask yourself, do the composition test on them. What did they do? How did they deal with things? How are they drawing the eye? You're going to learn more from them than you will from me. And then look at your own paintings and ask yourself the same question. How can I improve these by drawing the eye differently? How can I move things around for composition? It will change your life. Thanks for tuning in today. I'm Eric Rhodes, publisher, Fine Art Connoisseur, Plein Air Magazine, and other stuff. Thanks for being here. Bye-bye.